Assistant Professor, Indian Institute of Management, Vishakhapatnam. As a part of our Indian custom and tradition, before beginning of the session, let us start with it with a prayer song by Madhuri. Madhuri, please.
वीणानिनादे नमः वर्धे विदेशततं नमः शततं नमः शततं नमः वर्धे विदेशततं नमः हे देवी वीणावादिनी माता सरस्वती ज्ञानिनी हे देवी वीणावादिनी सरस्वती ज्ञानिनी गुरुविक्रमचिरं पावनं वन्दे विदेशततं नमः शततं नमः वन्दे विदेशततं नमः.
Sri Venkateswara Engineering College was established in 2009 based on the firm belief that education, especially the higher education, which provides a critical pathway to the leadership development, economic progress, and social and political equality among the students. Here, the students are the first priority, and the students are empowered to achieve the professional and personal success by providing the comprehensive educational experience, critical thinking, and encouraging the lifelong learning lessons. We are fortunate enough to have an eminent and a powerful women leader like Dr. Kalpalata Reddy Garu, who is always there for the concern and cared about the students' growth and the growth of organization. Now I request Kalpalata Reddy ma'am to address the gathering. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Chandana. Respected dignitary for this today's event, Mrs. Deepika Gupta, Assistant Professor, Indian Institute of Management, Vishakhapatnam. The convenience for this particular function, Dr. Chandrasekhar and Dr. Raju, IIC, SVEC, and faculty members, HODs of all the 5 departments, and my dear budding engineers, a very warm good morning to all. Let me thank MHRD Innovation Council for sanctioning us this Impact Lecture Series. This is the second consecutive time we are conducting Impact Lecture Series with the support of IIC. And this year's theme, which is the design thinking, innovation, startup, and entrepreneurship, it's a very good proactive concept, especially for the budding engineers, because in this pandemic, we are all well aware that innovation plays a vital role in developing India. The design thinking, which is the morning session, it is a process which can help us systematically extract, teach, learn, and apply the human-centered techniques to solve problems in a creative and innovative way, especially in our business, in our daily life, and in our lives also. Usually, we understand the people whom we are serving, which will empower us to observe and develop empathy with the target audience. So, this has happened in most of the companies, and we all know that the Apple, Google, Samsung, General Electricals, they have adapted design thinking and they are evolving with the new models. Whereas the design thinking, which is not been applicable in few companies, especially, we are well aware that the Kodak, Nokia, once upon they were the tech giants. Now they are nowhere in the market because they have not adapted the design thinking process in their R&D skills. In design thinking, we seek to understand the user, challenge assumptions, redefine problems in an attempt to identify alternative strategies and solutions that may help the user to better buy the product. It can be a service or it can be a product. I feel the concept of design thinking, especially in our daily life, it plays a vital role because we, as an end user, we always think differently and we want any product which we want to buy it. It should have a more features and it should be handy and it should be useful for even a layman also. So the concept of design thinking, which is the first lecture series headed by the Deepika madam, will have a lot of informative session for our students, entrepreneurs, and as well as the innovators who want to showcase their talent in future. Thank you for accepting our invitation, Deepika ma'am.
Thank
And
you.
we are waiting for your wonderful session, which can enable and empower our students to become new innovators. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
ma'am, for
madam. Thank you, madam. Yeah.
thank you, ma'am, for your valuable words. IIC, Institutions Innovation Council, was started in the year 2018 at SPEC, which has been supported by Ministry of Education Innovation Cell from the Government of India. Through this cell, we have conducted many hackathons and the projects. The cell also helped the students to build the entrepreneur skills. As a part of today's morning session 1, we are going to learn about design thinking. Design thinking has the potential to promote the entrepreneurial competency. Design thinking based strategies are effective to foster the entrepreneurial skills such as creativity, problem solving, and self confidence. With a deeper insights into the dynamic and power of design thinking, students can benefit from the integration of entrepreneurial skills in the curriculum. Now, I request my friend Preeti to take over the session. Preeti, please.
Good morning to everyone. This is Preeti from 3rd IT. Today, I'm profoundly delighted to take an opportunity to introduce the chief guest of the day. She is none other than our Deepika Gupta ma'am. Deepika Gupta ma'am holds FPM PhD in Corporate Strategy and Policy area from Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. She is a first attempt chartered accountant and chartered secretary. She has obtained her master's degree in financial services and management from University of Mumbai. She has also qualified UGC NET in management. She has almost 12 years of industrial experience working with organizations BSc Limited and Finanza Capital Services Private Limited. She had also been a reviewer for various national and international conferences and journals like Academy of Management, Eastern Academy of Management, Indian Academy of Management, and IIMB Management Review. She also received many awards and recognitions. Travel scholarship for doctoral workshop, co-winner team of best poster team, first rank in masters in financial services and management in University of Mumbai, merit and prize certification for all India ninth rank. She also received Saraswati Dhanuka Memorial Award for first rank among female candidates. Some of her training and consulting sessions are various sessions taken in MHRD TEQ in the years of 2019, 2020, and 2021, sessions taken for Indian Corporation Limited MDP in the year of 2020 and 2021, Program Co-Director for the first batch of the certification program in Research and Development Management for Naval Science in 2020, Program Director for MDP conducted for Hindustan Shipyard Limited in 2020. Some of her services are Coordinator Administration for 2000, from 2018 to 2021, Member of PhD, PGP, PGD, DGM, PGPEX admissions, and many more. Co-chair AIB Indian Conferences 2020 to till date. She is a reviewer for Generals Conference AOM, SMS JBR, SA JBS, and IIM BMR. Now I invite Deepika ma'am to take over the session.
Thank you everybody for inviting me. It's a pleasure actually talking to some of the graduation batches. Now, the issue is I teach here to the postgrad, and I know that they know something into this topic. Like you read across newspapers, you read across so many things. So it was a challenge for me what to put when I speak to the graduation groups. So I hope I'll do some justice to what your principal just said. That anyway, she touched upon some of the periphery of the design thinking, how some of the companies we all know are at the top, and some of the companies we knew some time back are there, but they are not in the competition anymore. So they are there, like they're trying to struggle and find out a way. Like she gave an example of Nokia, the classic case of Nokia. We largely teach as one of the examples of innovation failure, where design thinking is more important. And Nokia, we all know, some of us, even our parents, even today, even I think some of even in our generation, we still carry that old phone of Nokia where, you actually throw it and you get a bump on your head. So that was the power of Nokia at one point of time, but they could not understand where the technology is moving, where it is going. And that was when smartphones entered into this world. And Initially, for every company who is there, they don't immediately jump into the new technology. So they will wait to see what happens to that new technology. But that is where some of the strategic decisions are taken, whether we adopt that new technology or we do not adopt. And if we adopt, what is to be done with our own current technology. So that timing, reading of the timing and reading of what your rival company is doing is very, very important. So though this goes into the decision of the top management, it is also important at what happens to the R&D department in that company. Now, if you see, most of the time you will read Apple being the most innovative companies in the world, Google being the most innovative companies in the world. If you see in India, we all see the global company examples. Now, I'll try to connect with some of the Indian examples. If you really see in India, can we really name a company which is high on innovation? Maybe we will not immediately click on some names. We will not know that which company is very good on innovation, but you will find there are n number of companies who are actually good on innovation, but they are all at the domestic level. These companies have not gone beyond their maybe own national boundaries. And you will find them in all industry. You will find them in manufacturing, like you have the electric Mahindras doing it. That is beyond what they are doing. Riva is one of their classic example. You have even Tatas for that matter. They are good in their own way. You had Tata Nano as the classic case, though it is no longer there now. But one of the company who thought about what the consumers want. So the whole story about design thinking revolves around what your consumers is asking for. Now, the basic question that a business is in this world, or we enter into business, or maybe many of you will have your own businesses, or you will have your own entrepreneurial venture. Why the first question is, why do you want to actually start your own venture? What is the reason that you would love, as that one word that you would say? You will say to make money. That is the first instant. Naturally, you're going to pump in your investments, then you need return on investments. So the first question that clicks is, I need to make profits. And that is where the businesses are across the world. The first aim of businesses to make profits. But if you have to make profits, you have to also see what is the product or the services that your business will give to the world. And is that product and services to the liking of the customer? If the customer don't like it, your business is going to close. You're going to shut down shops very, very fast. That will be like, you will be into losses, you will be either bankrupt, and then you will never feel like again entering into the maybe the entrepreneurial activity or even starting a business. A small example, even when you plan opening up a tea stall, let us assume that you are into that entrepreneurial venture where you would love to sell tea, say at the beach, RK beach, you would like to have it. People who have come to Vishakhapatnam will see n number of shops who are there at the beach, and they are all innovative in their own way. See, any business is good. You have to make profit. Now, so you may have 10 tea stalls on that beach. What is different in your tea stall? What is the different thing? Is it the ambience? Is it that you are designing for the ambience? Is it the taste that you are targeting? Is it something free that you're giving with your tea? Maybe you're giving cookies free, or maybe when kids come with their families, you are giving some play toys to the child. You have to innovate, you have to think. So design thinking is not just restricted to the product, how you are industrially designing the product. You have to go beyond that. What is that the consumer is looking for? A consumer will never only look for the just the product, what the product is. So if I have to sell this pen, it doesn't mean that I have to design for this pen. I have to think about what different will this pen give me if I really make it. What is my consumer asking for? So it is too much of if I put a design thinking, it is too much of understanding the consumer, which is really, really an uphill task. So what I'll do is I'll first share my PPT. I'll just 1 minute. We are actually used to Zoom, so it's a experiment for me as well. Just a minute. Yeah, I hope you can see the slides. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. Great. So if you really see design thinking, we normally put a bulb. I remember even in the poster which was circulated by your by the cell, I think Professor Chandrasekhar who circulated it, he had also put a bulb there, because it is design thinking, you should have that eureka moments. That is where the bulb comes into picture. And we all know Archimedes, he was taking a bath and it clicked him and it says eureka. So that is where design thinking also flows into. So before I actually jump into design thinking, I'll just take 2 slides to make the group understand what is innovation. I hope you would know, but I'll just give you three pointers on that. So just a minute, let me see this. Yeah. So if you actually see what is innovation, you will find n number of definitions. I think you would have had some sessions in your course curriculum as well about understanding innovation. So one of the classic definition of innovation that you find on Google or Wikipedia or any of the open sources, it should be a new idea, method, device, a novelty. So if you see these 3-4 words, they are all different. A new idea, even a new idea is called an innovation. A method, that is how you make that product. So method, a product itself, or a novelty, a service that is attached to it, everything is a innovation. And there was this classic definition from a Japanese academician who has actually defined it, that it is a mindset. It is all what is there. How do you innovate in an organization? How do you make an organization innovate? Is change in the mindset. You have to have a forward thinking attitude actually. So it should not be looked as a routine job. If you really see, if you track the history of innovation in India especially, even across the world, you will find many of the countries originally thinking innovation as an R&D thing. So we all had R&D. Even today we have R&D departments. So R&D was just seen as a way of getting things done when there was a problem in the organization, when a particular product was not working, or when there was some big issue, there was a issue with the product. Say for example, the car's brakes are not working, so that is where the R&D will come into picture and check. So they never thought of doing it even before the customer can come and tell you. So that is what the normal general feeling was, and R&D was largely restricted to only pharma companies. So it has not gone beyond the pharmaceutical industry. And why pharma industries? Because it dealt with the human life. So they needed to actually expand the longevity of the human life, and that is where most of the innovations happened, or most of the research and development happened for coming out with new device, that is new pills, new syrups, new capsules, or new ways of making it. How do you convert compound of salts into different combinations, and how do you help it for your maybe fever, or as you had more serious ailments, say cancer, AIDS, TB. So that most of the innovation happened in that way. So Kruzmaski actually said, the Japanese academician actually said, that if you have to really innovate in a large way, you have to change the mindset of the organization. So it should not be restricted just to one industry. It can be in any industry. It can happen to any place, even a smallest of the place, say even an NGO. Even an NGO, if there is a mindset change, innovation can happen there. And he also said that innovation is not just making a new product. It is not just making a new device. It is also even an HR policy, even to the smallest of the department in an organization, say for example, human resource, if they have to change a policy, come out with a new rule, that itself is an innovation, that itself is a new idea, that itself is a new method. For example, in an organization, if it is a bureaucratic structure, you don't have tea breaks in an organization. Now there is a new HR manager who actually wants to give tea breaks to its team members in the organization. The pain with which he will try to implement that break, and he actually succeeds in giving you 2 breaks in a day, say 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes post lunch, that in itself is a new method, and that itself is a change of mindset. So he says that you have to think of a way beyond the present and into the future vision. What is going to happen in the future? And that is where most of these innovative ideas will come out. The classic definition is from Journal of Consumer Marketing, which says that innovation is an art of welcoming risk. Because unless and until the person does not take risk, innovation cannot happen, which is true in even in an entrepreneurial venture. Because most of the time, innovation, entrepreneurial ventures, design thinking, everything goes together. Because you have full freedom in an entrepreneurial venture to do whatever you want to do. Even in organizations where you join, you are buzzing with new ideas, but then you should be ready to welcome risk, because we all know higher the risk, higher the return. So that is where most of the time innovative ideas or success of innovation will happen only when the product champion, that is the person who comes up with the idea, or the team, the innovation team in itself, is ready to take that risk. So you should not be afraid of failures. That is what it tries to say. So even if it is pumping lots of money and if not finding success, it's fine. You have to take the risk. That is the reason most of the top management in an organization, they don't want to innovate, because they fear that if this fails, everything will be down the drain, because their all incentives are linked to that profits. So they are very much conservative. You will find these issues. Even if you are budding with ideas, you go and tell your boss, the boss will not agree, because he is worried that if it fails, what happens. So it's a very big tussle. How much should you accept? How much of the risk should you take? Yeah. So we'll just see what happens to the innovation process. So innovation process actually is a combination of three important boxes or circles, basically. First is definitely you need to have creative individuals. Though I have used the word creative individuals, creativity can be anything. You need not be super creative. You should just be thinking beyond the normal ways that people think. So, most of us, you may be walking on the road and you click upon some idea. You may have gone to maybe the garden and you see nature, how nature is uh, behaving in itself. You come out with some ideas. That is creativity. Creativity is not written in the books. It is beyond it. You may be playing games with your friend and something clicks you that there is a problem when we are doing something and something is happening and you come out with some new idea. That in itself is creativity. So you get creative individuals, which will actually, when these people, they actually go and join companies, they have to look into developing the firm knowledge, processes, products, and then that it gets connected to society. So because the benefit has to go to society. Now, if you really see innovation, I have always used the word innovation. I have never used invention, because these are two different terms. Invention will stop if it doesn't go to the society. Innovation is only when the new product or the new service or the new process, the invention that you did, is actually diffused to the society. The diffusion is very, very important. So I'll give you the latest example, COVID vaccine. So if you see the COVID vaccine, inventions had happened. But suppose the vaccine is not able to be used to the society, if it is not successfully implemented for use to the society, the invention stops there. And but the moment it is diffused to the society, like all of us getting vaccine across the world, everybody, but the society can be limited also. It can be only for a particular state, it can be only maybe national, any group of people for which the benefit comes. It is innovation. It has gone beyond its requirement of invention. So that is the classic difference. So whatever we do, whatever a business is doing, that benefit should go to the society. If that doesn't happen, it doesn't make any benefit to the organization, because only when it goes to the society, you reap profits out of it. You get the returns that you have invested. So if you see, most of the time pharma companies spending huge amount of money on researching, but many times many of the products, they just don't go to the society because they are not successful. So the product has to be commercially successful to get the benefit. Yeah. So I'll not go more into this innovation. I know you have a session on innovation and entrepreneurship where the faculty will try to connect with uh, 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 all these domain knowledge into innovation. But this is the starting point for design thinking, because design thinking finds its place, which is interconnected to the innovation process. If you actually see, the innovation domain is huge. I'm going to just speak for maybe 80 75 80 minutes, but it is almost unending. It is there everywhere in your normal routine life, as what your just now principals madam just said. You will find it everywhere. It need not be just restricted that just because it is a business buzzword, design thinking is a business buzzword, that it gets restricted there. No, it is not like that. So it is there everywhere. Even when you are cooking, your mom cooking, the way she cooks food, that in itself is design thinking. She has to think, she's not going to make the regular routine food she's making. On some occasions, she will try to experiment with, say, a new dish, a new culinary experimentation, and then she will try to understand what you want. I'll just connect all that. We'll just see what is design thinking, interestingly. So as we all know, first important thing is design thinking is application of your scientific principles and inventions. That's the classic thing, and most of us forget that we are actually using some of our scientific principles also when we are doing a design thinking. Say you have to, I'll take the example of iPhone. So I hope some of you have iPhone, but at least you would have seen it if you don't have it. But today everybody has a smartphone. You see the sleekness of that, the outside part of the smartphone. You see the way of the smartphone. You can see the speed with which the processor is running. Everything is based on scientific principles. Some inventions had happened earlier, never used. Now they are being used. For example, say the chipset is there, the processor, maybe whatever processors, new thinking going into how to use it. So everything is, how do you apply those scientific principles? How do you use the speed principles? How do you use the velocity, the density, the weight? Everything is what you would have learned maybe in school, or maybe even learning now. And the classic thing about design thinking is it is human centered, because it is all about creativity. Computers cannot do it for you. It is use of your own tacit knowledge. It is what is there in my mind. My mind will think differently than what your mind will think. What your team members, you have 3 people, all the 3 of us will think differently. So design thinking is human centered. It is what I think. If I think this pen is not working properly, then I have to rethink. And this gets somewhere, in India, most of us love calling it jugaad innovation. That is where some of the design thinking, if you see, I don't know how many of you are there on Facebook, you would see sometimes Anand Mahindra putting up those very innovative snaps, and he will say this is what he finds when he's roaming in some part, going on some places in India, and how people are trying to find out a way to find an answer to their problems. So that is where human centered core, they are creative in their own way, though they are not learned, they would have not known what is scientific principle, but they will experiment and they will try to do it because they have the tacit knowledge. It's what in my brain. That is the reason most of the time now the importance of documentation is also being done, because tacit knowledge is what I have, and when I die it will go away with me. So people need it to be documented, so tomorrow if somebody wants to take it further, it is already written. It also focuses on people for whom things are created, whether I create it for a child. And if you really see those what is those the jigsaw puzzles, those what is that the famous toy makers, so they will have, even for the children, different categories, whether that child is of 1 year, the child is of 2 years, 3 to 4 years, 5 to 10 years, adult, teenager. So you will have those products for each of the segment. Customer segmentation becomes very, very important. For whom is that product being created? Is it for the whole society? Is it for females? It is for males? Even within females, for which age group? Is it for the young generation, school children, kindergartens, elderly, uncle, auntie, aunties, senior citizens? That all goes into at the back of the mind of the team when they are doing design thinking. And naturally it will lead to better processes, better internal services. All that is the reason why we are doing a design thinking. It has to be a routine exercise. It is not that once you have done it, you have a product which is successful and that's the end of the story. It doesn't behave like that. You have to actually keep on doing an incremental innovation every time. Keep on redesigning things. If you really see iPhone, sometimes it will have those curves, very, if it is a flat phone with a square, it will make it curly. You will have those different designs, the style with which it looks. Sometimes you will have the earphone connection on the top, sometime on the down, sometimes the charger here, there. So you will have all those, which is a continuous improvement on the product or a continuous improvement on the service industry. You go to a hotel which based on the customer feedback, the hotel will say, next time when you go, it will be a different service. So that is what they keep on doing. You have to keep on incrementally doing even design thinking. Need to be technologically feasible and economically viable. Yeah, this becomes important because you have to go with what is the latest in the technology, or you will become like Nokia. Use creative tools, helps to generate revolutionary radical solution instead of incremental ones. Sometimes with design thinking, you are able to radically innovate things. Smartphone, one of the examples. You even have electric cars as one of the examples. You even have electric, these days you have those, those, instead of gas stoves, you have electric plates, where these are all design thinking. These are all revolutionary in some way or the other. You don't have to worry about gas cylinders. The only problem in India is electricity, because we are still electric poor nation, but it is a huge successful product if you actually go out. So before I actually jump into design thinking, I'll just play a small video. I don't know if I can do it from here. Just a minute. Yeah. I hope you can see this.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You can hear it?
Yeah, ma'am. We can, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So you will see that this video highly, just a minute. Yeah. So you will see this video highly focusing on the importance of the what the customer is asking for, and then it also gives you some of the steps of design thinking. So before we go into the steps, just three basic things, because all the steps get adjusted into these three main domains, which is discover, which is where you understand what your customers need, you design the whole thing, and then you actually deliver. Just a broad framework into what design thinking is. So design, if you really see discover, it is all, you have to do research, you have to understand your customers. Design, you do ideation, prototyping, and you validate it when you actually test it, and you actually then come out with the actual product. Yeah. And then if you see, I'll come back to this. So yeah, this is what the design thinking stages looks like. So if you see the video and you connect it here, so you have to empathize, you have to learn about what is that your audience is looking for. You redefine, you focus your question, you ideate, that is you brainstorm with your group, do a prototype. Prototype is a small form of the same product. Sometimes it is possible, sometimes it is not possible. Then how do you resolve that? And then you finally test the product, and then you go further ahead with your actual manufacturing and delivering of the product. Yeah, so we'll come back to this. Where do you actually use this design thinking? Definitely, we all know it is a part of innovation now, and it is used across. As I have been saying, it is used across even before the product is introduced and even after when the new product is actually introduced. So just not product, it is used for the process also, it is used for the services, and it is also used for designing a business model itself. So you are starting an entrepreneurial activity. What is that business model? How do you decide on the cost? How do you decide on the revenue? How do you plan to scale up your business after, say, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year? How do you arrange for the supply chain management? How do you do the value chain addition to that? Many things that go into a business model. So there is a business model canvas. You have to rejig many of the things. You will find many of the companies actually trying to think, how do we rework on the cost, because cost is a very important factor. How do you reduce cost? It is not possible to keep on reducing cost. You just can't stop paying salary to your employees saying that you have to reduce cost. So how do you reduce cost? How do you do it the way, say, Walmart, for example? There is an example of Walmart, which is said to be the lowest price per day. That is what it sells to its customers. But you should understand that even if at lowest price, it would be making profits. That is the reason it is able to sell it at the low price. So that means its purchase price would have been more lower than what it is selling. But then how is it managing it? How is the supply chain management being done? How is the inbound, outbound logistic that connect being done? So all these things go into design thinking. How the team actually sits and discusses and tries to interact, talk to the different departments and design that particular model. Services also, let's say you go to a budget hotel, you go to a 5-star hotel, you see the differences. Then how would a budget hotel try to give you better services? What is that? Maybe an ITC, for example, Grand Sheraton or Grand Moria, all these big hotels, 7-star hotels, what is the service levels that they give? Will they keep on renewing their services? What is that they have to do? Because these days, the important concept that is getting connected across innovation, across design thinking is sustainability. Sustainability, environmental impact, climate change, pollution control, waste management. These are the latest things that are getting added up into how do you rework on the services, how do you rework on the processes, how do you rework on the business model itself, and how do you see that your product is environmental friendly. So it's not that you just make a product and you throw it in the world and it will be dumped. So the design thinking is moving to a different direction, which is more beneficial to the society. Instead of being beneficial to the company or to the consumer, it should also be beneficial to the society as a whole, because we have to see the future. You remember that first, the definition of innovation, you have to think beyond the present and look into the future. So this is where design thinking is slowly moving. And if you see the three pillars that we just saw, three major pillars: empathy, ideate, and experiment. Now, understanding customers is a very difficult task, because customers, you just can't, it's an end of their requirements. You just can't put a line and say this is where the customers will stop asking me for more. It is unending. They'll keep on asking it, and they keep on comparing products. So that is where the challenge is. That is where most of the time many of the companies struggle, and some of the companies are able to understand what is the gap where none of us would have thought of it, and that is where they are able to outshine their competitors. Yeah, we'll see some of these. So if you really see I'll not take much time into making you understand how these processes work, because these in itself are like almost 5-10 sessions, but I'll just give you the glimpse of what goes into each of it. So if you really see the diagram on the right, the empathy. So empathy is the consumer. So if you see those 4 quadrants, so basically you have, as a innovator or as a new product manager or as a entrepreneur also, I have to see their world. So I have to think, if I was in their shoes, what is that I look for, what is that I wanted. So if I am having if I say want to buy a product, for example, let us assume if I want to buy a cup. So what is that cup, what should be the depth of the cup, how big the quantity of water should be in it, all that is what the customer is asking me. So I have to enter into their shoes and see what they are looking for. Then I have to appreciate that, you know, I should not say, oh, this requirement is nonsense. So if the moment you start thinking in that way, there will be no empathy. You have to sympathize. Empathize is, you have to be empathy. You should have empathy, plus you should sympathize with, because there are those pain points of the customers. These are what customers are struggling for. Say, for example, in your house, you have to clean the water sink in your kitchen, and you don't have an adequate tool to clean it. So that is your pain point. You don't know how do you clean it. So you see some of these advertisements that keep on coming on television. So they'll tell you, you know, this product is beneficial. It is not what was, it will actually be a different design than what you had earlier. So there are those small things that normally we ignore, but these are what the customer is asking for. It's not just those big products that you see in the market, maybe the phones or maybe the aircrafts, but even the smallest of the product is important for the customers. So we should appreciate that as human being we need it, and how do we work on those ideas and how do we design them. And then we have to understand their feeling, because if they are not able to clean a particular thing, if say for example you have a small baby at home, the house should be clean. So how do you, which is that best quality of maybe the phenyl or the cleaning, the floor cleanings, the cleaner, which is that will be good for the child as well, because the child will be just ramping on the floor. And how do you see that you sympathize with that mother, or you sympathize, you have empathy with it. And that is where you need to actually interview customers. That is a huge area where most of the research happens. They actually interview customers. They do it through, you may find sometimes somebody sitting at the mall and they'll ask you questions, or they'll keep on following the customers. What is that the customer is collecting from the shelf? And we have to be very non-judgmental. You know, the moment if the customer is buying a phenyl bottle, it need not be just for cleaning bathrooms. It can be for something else as well. So that is where some of the empathy factors come out. Need to define after that. You need to have, why is that what the customer is asking for? What is those thing that the customer is looking for? What are the problems that customer is having? And how do I define what is needed for the customer? And after that, you have to then ideate. You go further. Then it is an internal process. You get data from the external sources, that is from the customers. You get it internally. You discuss. You share ideas. You try to make out how do I take this the defined problem forward. What is that I have to add in my product? Should it be a new product totally, or should I do some incremental changes in my existing product? As a company, how do I do that? And then there is a prototype. So many of the companies will come out with small prototype. You will find, you know, some of the examples, you may find small sachets of say cold drink, or small sachets of say chips being circulated free of cost at maybe some mall, or you will find them with your local grocer to whom you go and buy things. He'll say it is for free, it is for experimentation. Those are prototypes, and that is getting experimented with the customers themselves. Do you really like the taste? So you have been having maybe a new flavor of a cold drink coming in, say blueberry, raspberry, something different which you would have not thought. Will it be a hit with the customer? So that is where some of the prototypes are done. There will be failures. Customers may or may not like it, but we should be ready to accept it. And lastly is the testing. You see how this testing happens, and when you get the feedback is very important, and the feedback is put back into the defined stage, and again it is done. So if you actually see these 4 stages, these are not sequential, though it appears sequential in the diagram, but this is like a complex or a dynamic situation. So even when you have an prototype and you do a testing, customers will give some feedback, and then you should again empathize with that feedback, and then again rework on that. You may get ideation, or you may again redefine some of the things when you're actually making a prototype. So those are the times when you have to come back and forth on this design thinking stages. And that is what is the beauty of this entire process, that it is not very restricted, that once you have done a particular job, it's the end of it. No, the process is very dynamic, and it keeps on happening. So going further, How to get started? As I've just said, that we need to actually practice empathy, which is again a very troublesome task. Observation and interviewing. Many of the times, many of the companies just cannot do it because they don't have so much of resources to actually go and interview customers. So what they do is they make some prototypes and they just experiment with it. They directly jump into prototype making, and they will say that let's try and test it. So you will find it, sometimes those sachets coming attached with the newspaper, or they will distribute it freely. They may be standing on some, maybe a bus stop or a railway station, and they'll keep on distributing freely. So that is where some, and then what happens to that product is they will try to understand whether people have thrown it without using, or they have actually used it. Then they will try to do it through those research. So you have to somewhere or the other go and talk to the customers. You cannot just avoid them. And research is very important. What is your competitors doing? What has happened in the past? Was something like this done in the past? So for example, if you really see Apple Watch, most of us have those the iWatch, or you call it Apple Watch. But if you really see, there were the automatic watch was there in one of those old Doordarshan serials. I don't know how many of you would have watched the Flying Robo serial. So there it was, where a Japanese boy actually opens up the watch and talks to the robot on the watch. So some ideas were already there, though it took a long time for Apple to actually get that watch here. We are still not into that world where you actually open a watch and talk to people. But those ideas are slowly coming into picture. Now people have started talking about virtual computers, where you actually don't need a physical laptop itself, but you can do the zigzag in the air and get working in the air, something like that, which you would find in some of those fiction movies these days. So most of the time, these fiction movies are a mirror to what may happen in the future, though not all will be successful, but the design thinking is moving there. As a movie maker, or the person who has thought of that idea, that in itself is a design thinking. And some of the manufacturers, some of the innovators will catch hold of that idea and maybe working on it. We don't know what is happening across the world. So that is where research is being done to understand the past, present, and connect with the future. Many of the time, people go back to their historical records, they go back to their manuscripts, they go back to old data, try to dig out so many things which would have been buried at that point of time because of lack of technology. There was no proper technology then, there was no proper advancements, there was nothing that was there, but people thought of those ideas. Flying to Mars. So if you really see, though it is mythologically proved that many of our rishis had actually traveled to places like Saturn as well, though this is all mythological, but it is there written in our scriptures. So if it is written in our scriptures, can I really do it today? So now there are experimentation successes found with satellites going to Mars. There may be a time where you will find satellites going to Jupiter. Then it will happen, maybe not now, maybe after 100 years, or maybe after, I don't know when. But that is where sometimes research connects, and there are these people keep on researching. Even as an entrepreneur, a very small entrepreneur who doesn't have too much of money, if you just need to open up the tea stall, this is my favorite example because it needs the lowest of the investment. But what do? You do a research. Where do I open it up? Which area will I go and open it up? Because if you already have 10 tea stalls or 2 tea stalls there, your business will be hit. So you have to think of a different way of having a business there. So you have to do some research. You have to actually go physically, do a surveillance of the area, try to understand what the competitors are, whether you will get your raw material properly, which type of customers will come and have tea. All that has to be done. So research becomes very, very important. And these are all the starting point of entering into the design thinking stage. Once you have collected ample data, then you define, you ideate, prototype, and then you test. Though this looks very simple, it takes sometimes years and years. It is not that you do it just with one click. Sometimes it depends on the nature of service or the product. Sometimes it happens even within maybe a month's time. So it is all about what is that you are looking for. Yeah. So this is just a framework for innovation, the same thing, but how it gets connected to innovation. So so this is from one of the US forum, where they say that you have to empathize, that is, innovation should be human centered. Naturally, you have to think about the customers. You ideate, where innovation is born. and it is a clash of ideas. You define where, first you define innovation should solve a problem, then you ideate a prototype, innovation should be brought to life, and then testing, because you need to refine the product before you actually launch it. Now here, interestingly, sometimes what happens is, here I speak so much about customers. It may so happen that you are only doing it for a single customer, especially when you are working with the Navy or working with the, say, military. Your customer needs are, it's just one customer that you're working with, and they are very clear about what they need. So most of the time you don't have to worry about the defining problem, the ideating problem, but prototype and testing becomes very important. And the empathy also important. What is that this my only buyer is looking for? What is that? Because that fellow will be sitting with you in the team, and that fellow will keep on telling you this is what they are looking. It becomes a little easy also, but it is that the customer is sitting on your head every now and then. In other non where you don't have one single buyer, where you have like the normal FMCG customers, you have to do too much of research on customers. Then you have to ideate, you have to think what is that one thing that they are looking for, define and ideate, and then do a prototype testing. So depending on the nature of customers, your design thinking also gets adjusted. Yeah. So just some more insights into a design environment, that how it gets connected: engineering, product, and the fashion. So three major activities that are there. How design activities, how these activities fit in the spectrum of design environment. So you will find that design thinking is largely seen as industrial design making, or it is seen as mechanical engineering. That is there, that is definitely there, because it is use of scientific principles. But interestingly, it should also add up to your what is the style that you're looking for. It should also look up for your graphics, for packaging, everything. It's a big world. It's not just restricted only to making one single, just the design, maybe a water bottle, a sleek water bottle. You may have ample different designing being done, even architectural designing. If you see Burj Khalifa, that is in itself a design thinking, versus you see Statue of Liberty, you see Sardar Patel's Iron Man statue. All that is nothing but design thinking, and many hours and many things have gone into it. So engineering, definitely. So you should all be happy that you're all going to be engineers. You will definitely contribute to the basic scientific inputs into design thinking, but it should also be what the customers want, not what you want. You will definitely be a part and parcel of the team, but what is that the customer is looking for? If you feel that a particular, if you really see, I don't know, most of you would have gone to cafe coffee or Starbucks. If you really see the tables there, tables are not square, they're all circular. Now, what is the reason for tables to be circular? You should actually think why it is that the tables are circular, because that will save space. Because the moment you have square tables, you can put chairs only on those particular sides. But in a circular table, you can put it anywhere. It is more easy to have friends together. Networking, that is what the tagline of these shops are. So that is where even a small thing like a table is a design thinking. The way their spoons are, the way why is it plastic, why is it maybe made of paper, environmental friendly, or is it easy to just throw? They did not wash it every now and then. Maybe you eat and then it is washed, and then somebody else eats, the fellow may not like it. So use and throw type of things, these are all nothing but design thinking. And it is all about how a particular business is viewing all these things and thinking about customers. What will the customer really like to eat in a steel spoon versus a plastic spoon? Because steel spoon, then you need to have another logistic arrangement, a worker to clean it. So all that, too much of thinking, deep thinking going into it. These days, the benefits are that you actually now have computers doing some of these things. You have simulations, because with the advancement of technology, you really have benefits coming out of it. So simulations being used. There are many more packages, software packages that actually supports design thinking, that helps giving inputs into the design thinking process. Continuous improvement, as I keep on saying, interaction design. You have teams to do it, design, because it is not a one-man show. It has to be a team effort. The importance of team becomes very important. And how do you select team? The other human resource problems, or you can say operational problems, psychological problems enter into the picture. Who will be the team leader, how the team will be, how do you manage the team, if your product or your company is global in nature, how do you manage those global teams? That is a totally a different OBHR perspective, but that all becomes a part and parcel of the design team. Then the culture is very, very important, because it adds to your creativity and information sharing. If you have a global team, say you are from India, somebody maybe from Japan, somebody from maybe from US, they have their own cultural setup, they have their own beliefs, they have their own thinkings. You may think a particular color is not good. Say for example, if you say saffron, somebody will not like that saffron color, maybe a green color, but for them it may be divine in nature. So we have to respect those cultural setups, and we should also see what is the customer segment that the product is getting targeted. Is it for a religious belief? Is it for some other requirement? And accordingly, the cultural respect should happen. Culture in itself is a huge study domain, and culture has its own pluses and minuses. What may be good for you may not be good for them, and they would have a different expectation, and it's a different study. And design thinking also respects. If you really see those diagrams here, you will find colors, a combination of colors. And here also, if you really just go back, here also you find these colors. So these are all what, even if you actually do some Googling and find out Stanford design thinking stages, they actually use these colors. So this is where color, combination of colors. So this is for collaborative efforts. This depicts collaborative efforts. This depicts teamwork. So it's not just one man show, it has to be a team effort. So where all the role of design in the new product, so one is to speed, it is for speeding up the product to the market, it is for easing up manufacturing, to create a differentiation, that is your product should look different. So I'll give you a very good example here, Indian example, Baba Ramdev. I really love that example, and Patanjali being a big differentiator. So nobody at that point of time when Colgate was there and ruling the market of FMCG, and you had even for that matter, what you say, HUL, many of these MNCs, they were there. And most of the products that we used were what these companies were giving us. The Ayurveda products were at a very, very low level. So even though Dabur and we had, I think, one more company, I think Dabur and Himalaya actually selling the Ayurveda product, but they're very costly, and most of us did not buy it. Then what happens is, what is the gap now? Now you see Baba Ramdev, he's not an engineer, he's not a management graduate, he has nothing to do with any of the top-notch institutes. But this man understood the customers. Now, how did he get to know about what the customers want? Is through his sermons, to the yoga practices. He keeps on interacting with many people. And then he realized that the liking of the people is a need of a product that will make them look beautiful, that will make them look healthy. And that is what he found as a gap. And the moment a gap is found, that is where he targeted Patanjali. The moment Patanjali enters, everything is disturbed. So what is that customer is asking for? He has created market for ghee, he created market for Dant Kanti at that point of time, though later on you have more issues piling up. But when he entered, it was a big shake-up for the Colgate, big shake-up for Nestle, and his statements also, creating the feeling of nationalism, creating the feeling of a patriotism. That is where he targeted, defining, empathizing with the customers, what the customers want, defining what is needed, that is patriotism, health, looking good, nationalism, all that getting defined, ideation, prototyping, and testing, and that's it. He enters into the market. And he is a differentiator. Somewhere he has disrupted the entire thing. So most of the time, his example is used as disruptive innovator. He has disrupted some of the setup, that some of the things that were settled in the market. If you see Geo, I'll take a different example. Geo coming into the picture. So Geo, what does Geo did? So Geo we all had Airtel, we had Vodafone, we had Idea, we had, some more players in the market. What did Geo do? What is the pain point of the customer? What is that the customer looking for? Better speed. What is that the customer wants? Maybe free things. He enters into the market with those things, and he actually gives things for free. And that is where he differentiated. He again disrupted the telecom industry. Though later on you will find other players doing it, but the first hit is by them. And that is where they were able to design their services, design their products to meet the customer need. And that is, there may be many more, beyond. Once you are able to get a gap in what the customers want, you have targeted it, because competitors will come and they'll try to find out a different gap, because customers needs are unending. That is, you have to underline these words. The customer needs are unending. The aim of the business is to make profit, but you need to manage both of them. So profit is definitely will come, but if you should be able to understand what your customers want. And these days, as I say, corporate identity, naturally that is more for image building, because sometimes you will just find companies redesigning their logos, also redesigning their brands, that the way they look, how Reliance looks, how Asian Paints looks. Some of these names, they'll keep on doing it. Maybe after 20 years they will redesign their logo, redesign some of the style of writing the name, the coloring in the name. That is all to create corporate identity. And the latest in thing that I just mentioned is redesigning for environment. That is the latest, and it's a big avenue. Any of you who would love to do an entrepreneurial venture or need to look into design thinking, this is the area where most of the creativity is needed. It's a small market today, but that is the in thing. If you see across, climate change a major thing, many things moving into it, too much of funding of the government coming into environmental help, environmental support, climate change, even some of these the latest initiatives of the government, like you have innovation cell, Atal innovation schemes, Skill India, Make in India. That is nothing but to create a force that will be very high on design thinking. That is where we need to be self sufficient, that we should be able to do what we can do. If you really see, in India, innovation was never the top priority of any of the earlier 5-year plans. Never the government thought of it. That is the reason we lag behind in innovation. Some of these countries, Germany for that matter, they're all high on innovation. Government invested too much on it, but now the government is doing it. You have your own cell. Even in our institute, we have a cell. I think almost everybody has started thinking in those lines, and we will see results as more years pass by. Definitely we'll see some positive results. So I'll just give one example about how the design thinking began in manufacturing process, because most of the time we just think about product and service, but what about the process? So the first of the historical imprints of mass production, we all know what is mass production. I don't need to tell you, the engineering students, but mass production started way back during the Napoleon days. Interesting, very interesting, that we never knew about it. So Napoleon days, and what happened that point of time was, British Navy actually wanted 1 lakh blocks per annum. That was to equip you. They have those wooden blocks where they have to keep the ship settled if they have to anchor it. So they needed 1 lakh blocks to equip new ships and provide spares. Now, there was this French engineer who was Marc Brunel. He actually he was not aware about all these requirements. So one day he was having dinner with this British Major General Hamilton, and Hamilton, while talking to him, actually made this statement that we are looking for 1 lakh per annum blocks, and we don't know how to do it. And it is like that time things were done manually, so it was very difficult. There was no standardization also, and their workers were very limited, so they have to go on wars also. The soldiers themselves used to do that. So it was like just an oral discussion, and Brunel actually saw this gap. So he understood, oh, the customer is the Navy, and that is what they're looking for. And he said that, let me try this, let me experiment with this. So he empathized with what the Navy is needed. He defined that problem, he ideated, he said, let me innovate the process itself of manufacturing the wooden blocks. So what he did is, he actually ideated a simple manufacturing process, but he divided them into small stages. Like first, because you need 1 lakh block per annum, it is not easy. Those days, during the, this is somewhere written in the 1600s. So he actually divided it into small stages, and then he designed a special machine, that a machine will, for each stage, one machine, and then you will have the final product of the blocks. And it was easy. It was like those standardized way, and that actually helped. The human intervention was reduced. The workers or the soldiers were free to do what they were meant for, and then they also, it helped to standardize the manufacturing process, and that was the beginning, that was the foundation of mass production. And that is where Brunel made a lot of money at that point of time. He was one of the well-known engineers in the British Navy, and later on he had designed many things for British Navy. He also designed some of the machines who can make boots, shoes in 9 different sizes for its soldiers, for disabled soldiers who had amputated legs and all. He actually gave the idea of artificial limbs. So he had done great thing. Even his son, if you read the history further, his son was also a great engineer, and he had actually helped building some of the great some of those old bridges or ships for British Navy. Now most of these things are kept in museum because we have better technology, we have better mass production concepts. And if you really see, mass production concept was then borrowed by the Ford Motors. That was the historical imprint initially in the Napoleon Wars, and but the modern auto industry which does a mass production is from that Henry Ford, the T cars, that is what they used to call it. And that is where the research, the Ford actually did this research and said, oh, this mass production idea was there, but it was not used across, like it was not very popular, but he made it popular. So that is where importance of the research comes into picture. And this is an example of innovating or design thinking into the process itself. So we see product, we see process, and we also see services. If you actually combine all this, it becomes a business model in itself. So business model, the examples are, it's about what company will do internally. So you won't find much of the examples on business model. You will only find once the company achieves success. For example, Walmart. I always get that Walmart, you can even name some of the companies who are high on the revenue making, like the Apple. So their business model is to price the product at a premium so that they make revenue. So in business model, you will not find much of the examples because these are all internal documented matters for the organization. So before I move towards the closure, just a couple of slides. So one of the major challenges of design thinking is the continuous feedback you need to keep on getting from user groups, listening to consumers, continuously redesigning your product, keep on watching the competitors, keeping aware of inventions and emerging technologies. These are major challenges, but there are teams, they do it. And these days companies actually have groups of people who are just doing nothing but following up what is happening in the world. How do I look differently than the other competitors? Yeah. So I always spoke so good about successes. Let me also speak about failure, because failures are the stepping stone to success, and we should fail. Once we should always fail, otherwise we will not know what are our weaknesses. To understand our weaknesses, we should all fail, whether it is academic or non-academic. I think we should all fail. It's not that you really fail in your exams, but there are sometimes circumstances which creates failing, and it is sometimes beyond our control. So one of the example in this is Microsoft. So you would even big companies have failed in their initiatives. So Apple was there, so iPod was already there, and that had actually transformed the music industry. That was when Microsoft came out with its product called Zoom, ZUNE. I don't know how many of you know about it. So that was almost similar to iPod. It also did all that, whatever, I spoke so great about design thinking, that all was done and that was launched, but it never was a success. Even though testing was done, everything was done. But later on, when it was released, customers were still not happy, because what happened was, on the design level, the the Microsoft product Zune, it lacked style and simplicity of Apple's interface. That was the pain point. So customers were so used to that Apple's iPod, the simple features, that they were not happy with a minor different styling design with this product. And that was one of the major reason that even though Microsoft had done too much of marketing of its product, it did not catch up. And that is one of the failures. And if you really see, there will be a number of cases, and it is not that you will always taste success. Even big companies do that, and lots of money goes down the drain. But that's fine. You understand. That is the reason most of the time you will see some of the websites. All of us do online shopping. Most of us will like Amazon portal. Some of us will like Flipkart portal. Some of us may like maybe Azio portal. We buy food through Zomato versus Swiggy. Maybe the users, if you really, that is all design thinking. That is from the service side. That is on the portal. The way they put their features, how do they display the features, even apps for that matter. You have n number of apps for the same thing. You may have, for say for example, jogging or tracking your what do you say, the walks that you do or the steps that you take. You will have some 10 apps, but the features are all different. Now it is all about what the customer loves in that, and that is where some of the apps will be more successful, some of the apps will slowly die out, and some of them will try to do the way the popular app, the features are. So they will copy. Many of them, they just copy paste and do it, because design thinking after a point of time, the company will open up everything, disassemble your product, process, service, and do the same what it was, what you were doing. So it is very easy to do it. But that is a reason many of the time the design thinking should be in such a way that you keep your competitors at a very far away position. They will come up, but how much time will they take to copy you is the game. That is where most of the innovations or most of the thinking goes in that also. So if Apple's iPhone security key is the design thinking feature, I think nobody in the world would have opened it up. And that is where most of the competitors are still trying to reach that level. And Apple even today is successful in keeping its competitors at bay, especially with the iPhone product. Yeah. So some more concepts. This is almost the last, and these are some of the high end concepts. Basically, I'll not do any of this. I just thought I should tell you these all go into design thinking. Competition definitely catching up. Having dominant design, for example, even top companies, iPhone having a dominant design is it will exist forever, unless and until somebody comes out with a innovative or a radical design which will beat even this iPhone. But it failed with Apple Mac. So you even the Apple facing failures and dominant design staying for iPhone. Technology importance will continue. There is a huge study domain on technology. There are various I don't know if you have sessions on technology, or you have maybe a course on technology, you would know about it. It's not just restricted to manufacturing, it is across astronaut, space technology, research, I don't know what not. So technology and its advancement becoming very important in design thinking. Quality control is one of the major areas. Some of you would have done this course, but quality control and total quality management, TQM and QCF and QFID, many of these abbreviations that are being used are all important in design thinking. Because if your quality is not good and if your design is very high, but if your competitor is able to break the phone and copy it immediately, all your profits are gone, because you will have the same player coming maybe with a better feature. Quality control is very important, where it is not only just the product, even things like bridges. You designed it very nicely, but the quality is not good, the bridge falls down. Even buildings for that matter. Anything you think about in design thinking, quality becomes important. Business process re-engineering is a part and parcel again of design thinking, because many times many of the companies will do a re-engineering of its products, and that is where design rethinking happens. They rethink on entire thing. If they are to come up with, for example, Asian paints, if they are already in some standardized paints, they want to, you were seeing ads where they say now the paint is health conscious, the paint is what do you say, no smell in the paint. So they have to re-engineer their process line. There again design thinking comes into picture. And the legal aspect, we should not forget the legal aspect, because designs get registered, and that is under the patent law or the intellectual property rights, and it has its own pluses and minuses. In India, the institutional framework or the institutional setup is a little weaker compared to the foreign nations, but registering designs is important. It's a part and parcel of design thinking concept, and there are companies who register their designs so that nobody copies it immediately. So you have some support from the legal domain where you can use your designs. I think it's for if I remember, 10 years or 15 years, and you get some extension of 2-3 years. But not very popular. Most of the companies don't register design because they fear that if the designs are registered, then it will be automatically known to the public. So that is where most of the companies avoid doing it, because many times innovation, design thinking is a closed door concept. Apple highly believes on it, that even Steve Jobs believed in that, and even Tim Cook, that nobody should know that what you are doing, because competition is there, people are tracking what you are doing. But if you see Tesla, Elon Musk having a different concept. Elon Musk says he believes in open innovation. He says that he has opened up his patents. He said, unless and until people don't know what type of final product I am making, they will not, I won't get my spare parts there. I should have the whole ecosystem working on it. So you find different companies having different perspectives on even the legal issues of the patents, even the legal issues of whether we should register or not register, and the importance of teamwork. That is alliances. You find strategic alliances, you find joint ventures across the world, within country, across the country. For there are some alliances only for design thinking. You may not have expertise in your own nation, especially say for aircraft. You may not have it in your own nation. You borrow design thinking team from outside. And they all are very, very costly. Huge money getting pumped into the system. So that is the reason you need to create your own. That creativity is here in my brain. Tacit knowledge is here. The only thing is I should need to put that matchstick and ignite it. That is where the bulb is. That is where I began with it, and that is what I think I have in store for you. Thank you so much. Question answers are all welcome. I hope there are still 10 minutes to go. I'll stop sharing. I've tried to cover most of these things that I thought was important. Then it's a big domain. Let me make it very clear. And also a disclaimer, I may not be an expert in this. I teach innovation out of passion into innovation, but I am open to questions.
Deepika ma'am, I have a question actually. See,
Yeah,
India is lacking intellectual property rights. Okay, and
yeah,
we
yes,
have a lot of innovations and inventions, but still, what you said is no. There is a open innovation and there is a closed innovation. You mean to say? Okay, whether
yeah,
so it is a individual perception that whether you have to file your idea or
yeah.
not to file. What do you?
Yes. So, yeah. So, what happens is open innovation. The meaning of open innovation is many of the companies, the culture of innovation in many of the organizations is very limited. Even in India, we all know how our organizations work. Even
Yeah.
today, many of the companies follow hierarchical structure, even though it's not a government organization, but even private sector, they follow a particular hierarchy. And we are
Yes.
not like the American corporate culture where you are flexible. So in India, many of the time ideas don't come out. So that is the reason some of the corporates these days have started having the open innovation mechanism. So they'll put a particular problem on their website. It is something like a live project. They will ask for competition. They will tell you to give suggestions. They will ask, especially the college going students, or
Yes.
the maybe the engineering students, the management students. So it will be like a competition for them. That is open innovation. So open innovation is like open resource mechanism, how you have free softwares available on the website. Something similar to that, but it is not caught up in a big way, because there are again problems with it, where people argue that how much would you put on the website, because ultimately the competitor will know I'm working on this project, and no, I don't want to tell my competitor. So in India also the same problem. NASA has been experimenting with open innovation for the past 15 years. They have also not found success. One of the major problem is internally people are not happy, because they feel that if you have put this thing on the competition, then why are we here for? That
Yes.
that tussle is still there. Now in
Yeah.
India, what happens is, as you rightly said, the laws in India are still weaker. So we had
Mm.
a Patent Act in 1970, and then the Patent Act was done in 1970 because we
Yes.
had to sign the TRIPS agreement. We were
Yes.
forced by the WTO, the World Trade Organization, to actually sign it. We never had it, and that was a time when most of the pharma MNCs were to come to India,
Yes.
where government
Yes.
of
Yes.
India were actually, yeah, inviting these companies to come and invest in India. and we were forced to enter into it. After that, most of the time, Patents Act was not looked into. Only when there was a problem, it was the law of the land was questioned by some MNC, was the matter will go to Supreme Court and there will be a decision. But of late in 2005, there are major amendments in the Act. And of late, I think in 2018 also, there are some major amendments, which is trying to make it a little stronger. But even today, you won't find the patents being filed regularly the way you find it in US. One is, whatever said and done, we are still having a bureaucratic approach to filing process. So even if it is a trademark, for example, and trademarks are also taking almost 2-3 years for getting filed and registered. It is not fast. So even though things have moved to online, there are problems. There are still problems, and people are still you have to answer too many objections because there is a process in the Act. So the moment you file the application with the patent officer, he will put it on the public domain and wait for some 6 months for the objections to be raised. And even if you get one objection, maybe not worthy, but another 6 months goes, you file it, and again it will be open to public. So that is, our lawmakers should relook into the process of the registration pattern. That is where I think many of us would actually go and really register our idea, the patents for the product, for the designs, because by the time you get the patent done, I think technology has taken a leap, and it is not worth having it. You have redesigned your product. So that is where we are still lacking. Huge work from the government side is pending. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any questions? Engineers, you should have too many questions, I thought.
Faculty and students?
Anybody? I don't know how much was, gone there, because it's a big domain. I tried to just give you a glimpse of the main topic. I don't want to hijack innovation and entrepreneurship from the next speaker. So I thought I'll just restrict myself to that topic of design thinking, pluses and minuses here and there. So
no, it was a very elaborately it has been dealt, ma'am. I have seen the way you have taken it. It is a simple English, and even a lay student can know about what is the design thinking. And fortunately, our students are having the subject actually for computer science students, maybe in a different perspective, but this has given an overall view also to the students.
So science is important. That is what I said. Science is definitely important, but we have to understand the customers, as you rightly said in the very beginning. Understanding customers is a difficult task because ultimately it is human psychology that is getting played. So what you may like, I may not appreciate, or what I like, you may not appreciate. So that where you have to find that connect becomes very important. So that is
even sometimes even the appreciation also may not click also, ma'am. It happened in Tamil Nadu. So I know one innovator who has come out with a very innovative designing. That is a public toilet system. Nama toilet. You might have heard about it. It was a big success, and it was supported by the government of Tamil Nadu, and they have deployed it in different locations. But unfortunately, the usage and the public, they are not given up the things, and it was not that success what the government has expected.
That is what happens, ultimately. And design thinking is in all the domains: social design thinking, personal level, rural design thinking, many areas, everywhere. It has
even
entered.
As a common man, they need to, even everyone has to support it.
Correct.
So that one is lagging in Indian scenario.
Yes. Because customers ultimately are the king. So customers are the king. We have to just remember that and work on our design thinking.
Yes. No, that's what, even when you were just telling about the iPhones and all, no, even an iPhone also, the one version, no, the iPhone 6, I think it was a failure.
Yes.
So even it was such a big success of iPhone, but the later version, and 7 has become success again.
Successful.
So like that, even
they would have gone back and researched. They would have gone back, researched that what is that we failed and why this has become a problem, and they would have covered up all those loopholes. Their companies are smart. That is what their teams are. They keep on hiring engineers. They hire management graduates. They form their teams, and that is what people are doing.
Integration of lot of expertise, right? And
correct.
even the price also, people doesn't matter. Once they doesn't have the quality, compromisation. Okay, so if the quality is there, I mean, people ready to pay a few bucks higher also. Nothing wrong. That I think most innovations are happening, and that's why the China products are failing us. That's the main thing.
Yes.
Because it's a
They're all
re-engineering, I can say.
duplicates. Largely, they have disassembled the phones or any product. They have opened it up
Yes.
and
Reverse engineering.
done it. Yeah, and they have done it with cheaper cost. That's the only
Yes.
reason that they have a product with very less the less
Yes,
priced products. Yes, true.
durability
You're
and
true.
quality
You're
compromising.
true.
Yeah.
Yes,
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 ma'am.
yes. So I did
Chandana,
not touch upon
Chandana,
on all those concepts. I just
Yes,
said
sir.
these
Yeah.
are important, but they are all part and parcel of design thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Chandana, to please present the vote of thanks. Chandana.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for really enlightening us with a great idea of design thinking and how it is going to impact in our lives. On behalf of my organization, I extend a really heartily vote of thanks to our guest, Mrs. Deepika Gupta Garu, who spared the time from her busiest schedule to grace the occasion. Ma'am, today we had an opportunity to hear your thoughts about design thinking and the impact of design thinking in our lives. This will surely be going to help us and encourage us in our future. I even thank the management of SVEC, Principal Ma'am, and the IIC of SVEC for organizing a great and an informative session. Last but not the least, I thank all the HODs, faculty, and the student coordinators, and finally the students. Without you guys, we couldn't make this event a grand success. Thank you guys. Thank you one and all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
ma'am. I personally invite you at some point of time to visit Tirupati, our campus physically.
Thank you. I'll see if I can.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to combine it with my visit to Tirupati also for the
Yes,
darshan,
ma'am.
and then
Yes,
maybe that
please.
will be, I
Yeah.
will do that.
I think
Okay.
now the pandemic is slowly